I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Kristina Milke, the president of Valhalla Angels and the co-founder of Valhalla Private Capital. Kristina, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Could you please start by giving a little bit of background on your experience with angel investing?
Sure. I started becoming an investor back in 2009. I was brought to a meeting unknowing what it was actually going to be about. It was a formal angel group meeting, and I was very fascinated by the whole chain of events that happened that evening. And I just knew after that particular meeting that I was going to eventually play some more in this space at some point in my career. So a couple years after that, I actually started working on the deal intake side with this angel group.
That's great. And for those entrepreneurs and tech startups that are looking for investment, could you give a definition of what does angel investing mean and why is it important for entrepreneurs to know about?
Sure. Usually when a venture starts out, they're looking for their first amount of capital to get the company going. And that often comes either from themselves or their family and their friends, maybe some government grants if they're available to them. But after that, the next round of capital typically that they raise would be from an angel investor. And the difference between an angel investor and a venture capital group is an angel investor is often investing their own money. And in an early stage deal, where the valuation is typically lower, but the risk is very high. And so the types of deals that they would get into would be often very personal to them and something that they would like to participate in or have a belief in the progress of the industry that they're helping advance.
Mm-hmm. That's a great explanation. Thank you, Kristina. And this depends on the investor, but when you're looking at an investment, what is the first question that you normally ask entrepreneurs and what should they expect?
I like to know if they've ever been an entrepreneur before or if this is their first time at this game, because experience can really help. It's not the only factor, and it doesn't preclude myself or my group looking at a particular deal, but it is interesting to know if the founder and the founder team has any experience previously.
Mm-hmm. That's great to know, and especially whether they succeeded or failed, I'm sure they have probably learned a lot in their previous ventures and can learn from that. So that's obviously very important. And how much of a factor is that in your decision to invest in an entrepreneur?
It doesn't play a huge role, but what it does tell me is, have they learned some of the lessons that they're likely going to have to continue to learn as they go down the path for their new venture, but also their ability to identify or recognize when they have a skill set gap, either with themselves or the team that they have, and know when to bring on the right talent at the right time.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And what are the other top 2 or 3 questions that you really need to know before you take the next step for investing?
I want to know if they have product market fit and or customer validation. And that kind of depends on the type of business. Some businesses need users before they can get customers. So have they gone out, launched their minimum viable product, got user and or customer feedback, and then even better if they have started getting some paying customers. So knowing that you have people that are willing to pay for your product becomes really helpful in de-risking the deal.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I could see how at an early stage, if entrepreneurs have traction with their product right away, obviously there's a lot less risk involved with incoming cash flows, and there's more confidence for the angel investors to invest. Would you agree?
Sure. And I absolutely agree. And it doesn't mean that they may not have to tweak their product or pivot in the future, but knowing that they're onto the right path, or at least as early as possible, so they're not spinning their wheels and or wasting time and money.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I've noticed that with early stage startups, a lot of investors put a heavy weight on the founding entrepreneur and the core team and their execution rather than the product or the product market fit. How much weight do you and the group of Valhalla put on the team themselves?
Well, that's a great point, and we totally agree with what you just stated. So when entrepreneurs come and want to do a formal pitch to our group, it's amazing how many entrepreneurs come and spend 80% of the time trying to pitch their product. And I can tell you for sure that the advice that we give them is spend no more than 20 to 30% of your time on the product, and the other 80% of your time we want to hear about the business model, the team, the competition that's out there, the deal structure, and what the financial forecast looks for the venture.
That's great. And to fit that in a short pitch and be able to, explain that in just a few minutes, and the way that you present it as well obviously gives off a vibe from the founder in their confidence in the deal, I would assume.
And we often find founders show up and they want to do a pitch, and it's more like a sales pitch to a customer. And that's some of the feedback that we ultimately have to give is before you get in front of investors, you have to tailor your pitch so that it's an actual investor pitch. And investors, like I said, only want to see a little bit about your product. They really want to make sure that the team has the right skill set on it, that the founders are coachable and are willing to take advice, and they're not too in love with their product that if things aren't going the way they expected, that they're not willing to make a pivot if they need to, and that they're going to be able to execute on the plan to get to market as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I really agree with you there, Kristina, on the fact that to understand that they may need to pivot, or maybe they were wrong and they can easily correct to move towards the right path without having that fear of being wrong in the first place, and to be able to take advice and take critical advice and make that into an improvement in the company shows a lot of grit for entrepreneurs. So I really like what you said there.
Great. Yep. Feedback is a gift. And if people don't see it as a gift, then we're going to have a problem.
That's great. Now, this next question may vary depending on the type of business, but for angel investment, what would you say is the average check size as it is early stage? And I'm sure it would probably differ between Canadian investments and American investments as well.
It definitely will differentiate between actually geographical areas. So, I can't give you a number that's specific to the US, but there's different parts of the US that will have higher check sizes, as in Silicon Valley, versus different parts of Canada even. So if the market tends to be more frothy, there could be multiple investors trying to get in the same deal, and that may drive the price up, and it may drive up the check size as well. I would say in our group, the average check going to an entrepreneur, and it may be made up of multiple checks from multiple investors, runs somewhere around $150,000 to $170,000. And again, that can be made up of multiple checks from multiple investors. So angel investors typically write checks anywhere from $25K to $100K, and then generally someone that writes checks for $100K or more is defined as a super angel.
Well, that's great to know. And now specifically with Valhalla Angel Group, what kind of investments are you focusing on currently, and are you limiting it to a geographic region as well?
So we get deal flow from all across North America. We find that most of our investors like to actually meet the entrepreneur if they have the opportunity. So typically they're Canadian companies that are coming to us that get through our screening process. And we are focused in any kind of tech-enabled business. So we will stay away specifically, though, from retail, real estate development, and any kind of extraction business, as in mining or oil and gas exploration.
That's great. And have you noticed a trend in increase in tech investments throughout 2018, 2019, or any future trends towards tech?
I would say, our group's been around since 2003. And so we've been in this field for quite a long time now, longer than a lot of other formal angel groups. And I'd say that we're just seeing a lot of deal flow, but we've never had a lack of investors in our group and people interested in investing in this space. So I'd say there's probably more and more entrepreneurs than there ever was before. There seems to be a little bit more trend. I think it has something to do with the average age of the entrepreneur as well, and the things that, people wanting to have more control over their schedule and over their destiny. And so we're seeing a lot of great deal flow coming from across the country, and I think that trend will continue.
That's great insight. Now, as an entrepreneur, how easy is it to get in front of angel groups or the Valhalla Group and pitch their product?
Well, the first thing is we get a lot of deal flow. So we get anywhere from 300 to 500 applications that come through our formal website every year, in addition to the fact that all of the co-founders of Valhalla get multiple invites a day on LinkedIn to look at deals. And so we will do a formal deal screening event once a month for companies that we feel may have a potential to raise money with our group. And then once they go through the deal screening process, they will get some feedback. And if we feel that they're a good fit, then they'll get an invitation to actually pitch at our group. So if you think about it, we see somewhere between 300 to 500 deals a year that come to us, and we may have 70 of them that will make it through screening and actually pitch in a year.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And what would you say to the entrepreneurs that have pitched maybe at Valhalla and had no traction, or it just wasn't the right time for them, and they didn't get any deal flow?
You mean investment?
Yeah.
So I would say that raising capital is a global game these days. So there's a lot of capital in the world, and you can reach out to investors all over the place, and investors can find deals all over the place as well. And so I would say that some of it's timing, but it's very competitive. So you have to bring your A game when you're pitching or when you're getting in front of an investor, even if it's a one-on-one meeting, and you're competing against every other deal that investor is going to see or has seen in the last 60, 90 days. And if you're pitching in our group, you're going to be pitching with 3 other companies lined up next to you. And so you're competing directly with those 3 other companies as well. So you have to be really good, and you have to be able to answer all the questions that people may have for you, exude some confidence, but not be arrogant. There's a lot of nuances to doing a good pitch. Make sure you understand who your audience is, and that you come with a refined and proper presentation.
Great insight. And if entrepreneurs are looking to reach out to Valhalla to get into in front of the group specifically, what is the best way for them to reach out, learn more information, and get involved?
Sure. It's valhallaangels.com, and we have a section on our website for entrepreneurs, and there's an application button that you can go through and start submitting your information to us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kristina, for the time. It's been a pleasure learning about Valhalla Angels, and it sounds like you guys have some great deal flow. So all the best to your group moving forward, and hopefully some of the entrepreneurs that are watching this will reach out and test the group out to see if their product is right for your investment group. And let's follow up in the near future to see how Valhalla is doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Ashton.